KPBS On Demand is supported by UC San Diego School of Global Policy and Strategy. Graduates work to help solve the world's most pressing problems in security, climate, human rights, and trade, with the goal to make an impact on public policy locally and globally. Learn more at gps.ucsd.edu.
Warning, there are a few curse words in this episode.
It was March 2020, and my band Tulengua had just put out a new album. This is actual audio of the show, from an iPhone video taken by our sound designer Emily at our album release show in downtown San Diego. The place was packed. We were having an amazing time on stage. The audience was dancing. We were dancing. People were singing along with the lyrics. It felt magical. All the work, all the time, all the things my band and I had been working on for super long were finally getting out into the world.
We basically had just finalized our, not even just album and like put it out, but it was just kind of like we finalized what it was to like complete an album as a band, like with that like unification.
This is my bandmate, my sister, someone I love very much, the woman who made me a godfather and a true force of nature, Amari Jordan.
That was an awesome experience. We all hugged, we cried. You know, it was a deep moment for us all. It was kind of like the start of a new venture. So that first show was just, it felt like an echo chamber in a way, because it was like everything was just like lining up, and then all of a sudden it just ceased to exist.
Everything just stopped. Because at that very moment in March of 2020, the pandemic became the new reality for our border region and the rest of the planet. It felt like the whole entire world shut down pretty much the day after our show.
We direct a statewide order for people to stay at home.
Breaking news tonight, the coronavirus forcing millions more Americans into virtual lockdown.
Stay at home, that is the order tonight from 4 state governors.
The entire state of California ordered to stay at home. That's 40 million people.
As Daniel Backus reports for us tonight, with nothing to do and nowhere to go, the Golden State is in shutdown mode.
All the shows we had booked to promote our new album canceled. And within weeks, the border was closed.
In exactly 2 hours from now, the border will shut down to non-essential traffic in an attempt to slow the spread of coronavirus.
Suddenly, our binational, bilingual band with members on both sides of the U.S.-Mexico border was about to be physically separated by the border wall. And me and my bandmates, Amari and Mora, we ended up being separated way longer than we could have ever predicted.
So I do remember that first show just kind of being like, this is it, this is the start, you know? And then, you know, it just happened the way it did.
I couldn't believe it. I think it was just like a, I don't know, like a, ¿cómo se dice? Como si no fuera real. Like yeah, like it's not happening. Like, come on.
I'm Alan Lilienthal.
And I'm Natalie Gonzalez.
And from KPBS and PRX, this is Port of Entry,
where we tell cross-border stories that connect us.
We've got more about my band's border story right after the break.
No se vayan a ningún lado porque ahorita volvemos. Volvemos.
KPBS On Demand is supported by Illumina, a global leader in DNA sequencing, helping clinicians and researchers all over the world understand the genetics of disease to make personalized medicine a reality. From genetic testing to developing new vaccines to help protect people around the globe, Illumina DNA sequencing is impacting the future of healthcare. Discover more about the power of the genome by visiting illumina.com/KPBS.
Y estamos de regreso.
All right, good morning. My name is Jaime Mora. We are in Tijuana right now. We're about to cross the international border on a Monday. On a busy Monday, yeah.
Because of COVID rules at the U.S.-Mexico border crossing, my bandmate Jimmy wasn't allowed to cross into the U.S. for almost 2 years.
And when the restrictions finally ended in November and Jimmy could finally cross the border again, we wanted to be there with him. Alan, tú ibas manejando, and our producer Kinsey was recording you in the passenger seat, y Jimmy and I were in the back seat.
We are in Tijuana, Baja California, Mexico. We're driving down the street. I don't know what the name is, but we are heading to the line so we can cross the border. That's what we're doing right now.
And so, Jimmy, this is the first time you've crossed since the pandemic?
Yeah, it's been almost like 2 years. Feels kind of like a new thing, to be honest. I'm a little bit nervous. I haven't done this in a while.
So yeah, when the pandemic hit, Jimmy was on the U.S. side of the border in San Diego for our album release show.
And from San Diego, that's about an hour and a half drive to get back to Jimmy's home in Rosarito, Mexico.
But Jimmy ended up staying with in the U.S. for a month because we didn't know. I mean, we just had no idea what was going on with the border. Like, it was supposed to be closed and kind of open. We didn't know when it was if he left, if he was gonna be able to come back. So he just we're like, let's just wait it out. The pandemic will probably be over in a couple weeks. So Jimmy stayed at my house for a month, and then after that, we realized that there was
something else going on
long term. I tend to not take things too seriously until they're really present in my life for some reason. So I just thought it was kind of this media thing. I think a lot of people think it's just overblown, exaggerated thing, and I think that was the general feeling at the show. Everyone was kind of making jokes about it, sharing joints. There was a 30-person joint circle. I made fun of COVID on stage, and we had a COVID chant. It was just
what were you chanting?
I think it was "fuck COVID," to be honest. I'm not proud of it now in retrospect, but it was the second or third day I'd even heard of COVID, probably, and it was this thing that's oh yeah, it's happening on the other side of the world, and it just didn't really seem very real. It definitely did not feel in any way serious, or the gravity of it was not felt by anyone at that show.
But a few days after that show, things got really real.
Way too real. We were told we had to quarantine. So it was oh shit. We heard about the COVID and the border might be closing. We're honestly just he was just gonna stay in San Diego. I mean, he had stayed for a week or two in the past, but this was a month and a half that he stayed, because we really thought in a couple of weeks, we had a few shows planned a month and a half. We're fuck it, we'll practice, we'll record, the border will open again in a couple of weeks, it'll be chill. I think after that, towards the end of that Jimmy staying, when it was a month and a half into the pandemic, and we realized it wasn't really stopping anytime soon.
Yo, do you remember that time we went to Walmart to buy stuff? Oh, yeah. It was chaos.
Yeah, Walmart was when the gravity of the situation really sunk in for us. On our drive to the border to get Jimmy home, we stopped there to get him stocked up before crossing back. It was ¿te acuerdas, Jaime? It was people just were panicked. Yeah, people were just moving. The way people were moving through the aisles and stuff, getting stuff, because it was the first couple of days of the pandemic. It was just this air of doom, where people had no idea what was happening, or how serious this thing was. So it was just an odd feeling in that Walmart, where not only was it empty and a lot of things just felt like you're used to seeing, again, consumerism. You go to these stores and they're overstocked. like stuff to the ceiling. So the fact that it was like pretty empty and you just have the bones of it. So our thinking was, pues quién sabe, who knows how things are in Tijuana in terms of the supermarkets. So our thinking was like, well, Tijuana must be chaotic. Jaime and I went to like buy stuff so that Jaime could take to Tijuana, so that at least he'd be stocked for a few weeks. Honestly, like, I thought I would see him again in a few weeks, but we didn't know. At this point, it was like far enough into the pandemic where we're like, dude, I might not see you for a while. Like, you weren't gonna be able to work, so it was like we didn't know how long you weren't gonna like have money in your pocket.
Yeah, that sucked.
At this point, Jaime, who I also call Jimmy, he was actually pretty sick. Maybe with COVID, maybe not, we don't know.
And we will never know.
But I just remember he was coughing and having a hard time breathing because he has asthma.
No.
Yeah, so after Walmart, I drove him to the San Isidro port of entry and we said our goodbyes for what we thought was going to be a few weeks at most. In those days, like, when they said the border was closed, people really respected that and it was like, okay, we're not crossing. So even though Jimmy was sick and I wanted to, like, Jimmy was at my house and his health was like, he was really just not feeling good. Man. I couldn't cross the border because I didn't know if I was going to be able to come back. So I had to drop him off in San Isidro and he walked across.
Yeah, that was like the walk of hell because I had like so many bags and my breath was just like I just couldn't, like, I don't know, no puedo respirar bien. So every 5 steps I would like just get so tired. And it was like the longest walk ever.
Tulengua was officially separated by the border in that moment.
We were, but again, I thought, and we all thought, it was just going to be a little blip in time. Like, we'd be back at band practice en un mes, 2 meses, pero máximo.
Yeah, but of course that didn't happen, and in part because of privilege.
Yeah, so the border closure actually was all about status. Like, I eventually figured out that because I'm a binational citizen with passports in both the US and Mexico, I could cross the border no problem.
Yeah, it's the same with me. And I was able to keep crossing too, since I'm a binational citizen too. Pero our dear Jaimito is a Mexican citizen. And in pre-pandemic times, he could cross the border whenever he wanted with his tourist visa. But it was precisely these people like Jimmy, Mexican citizens, and only Mexican citizens with tourist visas who were not allowed to cross anymore. And the rest of Jimmy's family was in the same boat.
Yeah, and actually when the pandemic hit, Jimmy's mom was in the US, and she knew that if she crossed back to Mexico, she wouldn't be allowed to cross back. So rather than lose her job at a Mexican restaurant, she decided to stay in the US to work.
I didn't see my mom like for the longest.
How long did she stay over there for? More than a year?
Yeah, more than a year.
Oh, so you didn't see her?
Yeah, I didn't see her for more than a year.
That was the longest you've never seen your mom, huh?
See.
How did that feel?
Weird. Like, just weird. Yeah, I can't describe it. I just felt.
Miss her?
I did, in a way. I know she was doing good. I was just worried about the COVID thing, like she getting sick.
And on top of that constant worry, like a lot of folks in the pandemic, perdió su trabajo.
Jimmy lost his job.
I wasn't just working because, like, my job is like giving surf lessons and stuff, like one part of it. So, like, people couldn't come. Like, there was no job at all. So I ended up like not working for some months.
So what were you doing during those months when you weren't working?
Just eating and getting depressed. I was so depressed for some time. I really felt alone.
Okay.
Like, I felt alone. I do remember that. And yeah, just making music, like sad music.
This is the last motherfucker.
This melancholic song we're listening to right now is something Jimmy made during the time. It's called Rolling High.
It's a track he made with his friend Ruben, but for the first time ever during this time in the pandemic, Jimmy started becoming more serious about his solo music.
They're at home playing stuff and just eating greasy food. It felt like a vacation type of thing for a bit. But then I started like feeling it, you know. Ya no veía mucho ya casi no hablábamos, ¿verdad? Llegó un tiempo que no hablábamos. Sí. Like we stopped talking.
Not because of anything happened, just we're both not good at phone communication.
Yeah. pero se empezó a sentir más como, oh God. And my best friend too, I couldn't see her. I remember she was doing pretty bad, like on her health, and I couldn't visit her at all. I couldn't do anything.
She lives in Rosarito too.
Yeah. Because of COVID, yeah.
But she was battling cancer too, no?
Sí.
And so you got to be very careful with people.
Yeah, sí. And that kind of like took a toll on me too. Eso. ¿Qué más?
Se amontonaron.
Sí, todo se amontonó. Like my mom thing, like I was feeling it too. I was just worried.
Jimmy's best friend, Marce, ended up passing away from cancer early on in the pandemic.
So how did you cope with her passing away?
I haven't, I think. Like I still have my stuff.
That's okay.
But life goes on. Like I'm going through it. I channel it like through music a lot. Eso sí. Yeah, I learned that too. Como a descubrirme musicalmente as a being. Because I wasn't with them anymore, you know. Como creo que mi rol en la banda was different. Okay. I was like a kid, kind of. So todo este proceso me ayudó a madurar mucho.
So you started to find your essence, maybe?
Yeah, my essence just pretty much like becoming an artist, se puede decir. Como yo, ¿sabes? Como, yeah, I don't know how to put it in words, but yeah.
No, I understand.
That happened. Bueno, siempre me gustó hacer ejercicio. That's the thing. Like, I've always been active. Like, not in a consistent way, but I've been, like, surfing or skating or, I don't know, just moving, yeah. I like to move. Because if I don't, I go crazy. Me desespero. So, yeah. Eso pasó, like, right after my friend died. And I had, like, this relationship, too, back then. And it ended up, like, in the same week.
So everything... Okay.
Yeah, everything just, like... It was like a bomb.
So, yeah, Jimmy says it felt like his whole life exploded.
His best friend, his band, his girlfriend, all the things he loved the most were not there.
But eventually, his aunt took him with her to a small town about 3 hours south of Ensenada.
It's a rural, quiet place where there's not much to do. Jimmy was helping his aunt with her business and still pretty depressed.
Yeah, but there just happened to be a gym across the street from where he was staying. And since Jimmy couldn't surf or skate, one day he decided to work out.
And that moment changed his life.
And his body, too.
Yeah, he's ripped now.
He is ripped. No, but I get it. The exercise truly helped him process all those difficult things.
I like the pain. I like the pain because it just makes me feel like I'm alive. I like being strong. That's one thing, too. And I believe like it helps me to channel energy, and whenever like I start feeling like emociones negativas o fuertes, because all the stuff I've been through, como que me ayuda a como like just stabilize. So yeah.
So you were using exercise to cope with everything, pretty much.
Yeah, it's a therapy. Yeah.
Things got better for Jimmy.
And things got even better when his mom finally came home.
Before the pandemic, it seems like such a staple of your life is like waking up and your mom's making food. And it's like, it's such a comforting thing. Like going to Rosarito the first few times, me and Amari to visit Jimmy, it was like, that was one of the most heartwarming parts of it. Like getting there and like Jaime's mom is cooking something and it smells so nice while we're making music. And it's just like this very comforting feeling. And I'm sure not having it for a year and a half.
Yeah, it was a trip. Como se sintió un poquito más amortiguado el golpe porque ya estaba afuera, ¿sabes? O sea, estaba en tu casa y también estábamos en playa, so I was just like doing my own thing. Pero ya cuando ya nomás no pasaba, sí era como, oh man, these beans are trash. I mean, they're good, pero I mean, como la comida, like I just missed it.
Que la vida es una bendición, que mamaría, que la es que no quieres una conexión, que mamaría, no me
Okay, so Alan, this is a voice memo by you. And this is how you handled being separated from your band by the border.
Yes, and we'll get into exactly how it changed me and my music and how it changed my bandmate, Amari, too.
Nice.
After a very quick break.
No se muevan.
Happy New Year. I'm Parker Edison, host of the Parker Edison Project podcast. It's been a rough 12 months for everybody. A lot of life has been put on hold or just plain canceled. Well, here's some good news for you. The Parker Edison Project is back for season 2. The first episode drops March 9th. I don't know about you, but that sounds like a long wait. So we're cooking up 2 special episodes in the meantime, with uncut stories from season 1 and new insights from the underground. The first bonus episode drops January 12th, wherever you get podcasts.
Y ya volvimos con ustedes.
Oh, man. I can't even believe how, like, to the degree, like, how differently I related to myself before the pandemic.
Yeah, so anyone who knows Alan knows that music is the center of his whole universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when live music stopped because of the pandemic and my band couldn't get together because of the closed border, it really shook me up.
Ay, pobrecito.
Why are you making fun of me?
I'm gonna clean your tears, poor baby. Nah, just kidding, man. Anyway, so you got real and vulnerable that day in the car when we were crossing the border with Jimmy, and you shared exactly how it shook you up.
I've had anxiety my whole life, but I think before the pandemic and having so much time to spend with myself, which was hard a lot of the time because you have to really realize that, like, a lot of the things you blame other people for, or like that you blame situations for, is like something you carry inside. So before, like, say I would get anxious and then that I pile like guilt on top of, like, why are you feeling anxious? Like, what do you have to complain about? Like, and then guilt would come on top of that, and it's this like never-ending layers of like judgment and like really self-hatred, like self-criticism, self-negativity, right? Like, it would keep piling up on top of the other. And while that still gets triggered in me, so I can see like how I used to relate, now I can way more easily be nice to myself and just be kind to myself. And that's the biggest change in everything, because that changes how you relate to everything.
So yeah, I used a lot of that downtime in the pandemic to deal with all the mental health stuff.
Yes, we should all deal with mental health stuff.
Yes, and it actually helped me evolve my relationship to music.
Talk to me a little bit more about how it changed.
Well, before COVID, I was really using music to fill a void, or get love from other people, avoid feeling lonely, because I was always felt like I was good at music, so I felt like that was the way that I needed to get approval and love from other people. But when I started addressing my anxiety and my depression, and I couldn't play music for other people, it made me realize I could give it to myself and find love for myself.
That's beautiful.
And it made music a lot more fun and freeing. So yeah, just like Jimmy, for the first time in my life during the pandemic, I ended up using my alone time to write and record solo music too.
And this banger we are listening to right now is called Soft Plans. It's one of those songs Alan wrote during the time.
When you touch my soul, candle in a flicker when you do it like that. Never wanna pickle when you do it like that. And I will have you home.
So now the music that is being made, and I know Jimmy feels the same way, because we had to learn this on our own. It's like, oh wow, like I'm making music from a place of health and from a place of wholeness, and it just makes it feel so much better because you're not relying on music as a crutch or as a drug to fill like an empty void.
Oh, and you can come hang out too. Is it nap time almost too?
I think it could be nap time for sure.
All right, we'll be flexible. I know how it
He
goes.
wants to.
He can come hang out. He's 1, right?
He is 1.
He just turned 1 in August?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So that was Kinsey talking with my bandmate Amari and Amari's baby, my godson. Because at the album release show, Amari was actually 5 months pregnant.
Yes, and at that show, she was already preparing herself to have to take a bit of time off from the band.
Like, I had already been anticipating, being on lockdown mode, if you know, as a mom. As a mom in general. I already knew that was coming, but for it to be, not even forced, but for it to be at the level it was at, I don't think I was ready for that.
So Amari was a new mom, separated not only from her band, but really from everyone.
Damn. Yeah, and she says the experience was really, really hard.
You know, being a new mom and all that, and the experience of baby showers and you know, having my family present while I had my child, or just anything like that, it was just non-existent because no one could gather, you know. So I remember just feeling really alone in that process. But it's so weird because it's almost like I had a baby at the best part of life that I could have possibly had it at, in the weirdest way, because the world stopped for everyone, not just me. I wasn't really missing anything yet. I was missing everything, which is strange. As far as the mother and woman experiences, yoga, all the little pregnant weird classes, mommy, all that was canceled. So I didn't get the full experience of just a lot of shit. So that was hard to adapt to, but it just became life.
Yeah.
Amari says her first reaction to having a baby and the pandemic and all our canceled shows and inability to meet up was sheer panic.
Miedo y paranoia por todas partes.
I think there's a lot of different faculties when you become a parent in general that your whole mind chemically, like literally chemically changes. And I think I went into like a panic mode because I felt like, what am I gonna do? How am I gonna do it? Like, how am I gonna make sure he's good? Like, I don't have a real career outside of music, to be honest with myself. Like, and it was just like, okay, I can't do any shows. Like, we're not selling anything. We're not doing anything. Like, what's happening? So it was a lot of, honestly, fear-based emotions going through my head.
But after a few months, Amari found her rhythm. And she used any downtime she could find outside of baby duties to jump right back into music.
Yeah, she actually got more serious than ever about music and did things like invest $5,000 in her little music studio upstairs.
Damn!
Like, I got a new laptop, I got the new midis. I think musically speaking, like, I felt like I have to give it my all. Like, if I don't do this, not to say I'm not good at other things or that I don't have other experience or whatever, but like, now is the time to turn it on because now you have something to beyond yourself and God and all the things you care about. You have someone and something that's relying on you to get shit done. So I think musically, my relation became like more like, okay, how are we getting this off the ground? How can I be of more assistance to like Alan and the whole process? Like, what can I do to better serve my family within music? Because again, everything had stopped, so it was just a really weird process.
Amari started working on a solo album that's been floating around in the back of her mind for years now. This is a demo from that solo album called Fuchsia that she's releasing late next year.
Nice, I love this song. Alongside the new album, Amari also used the pandemic to start working on building a female music production collective. Pretty badass.
So Amari and I were able to meet up once in a while through the early days of the pandemic since we were both on the same side of the border. And actually, once I realized I could cross, I started crossing down to see Jimmy too every couple weeks. But it wasn't until almost 7 months went by, with Amari mostly being at home alone with her baby, that she finally felt ready to cross the border again to see Jimmy.
As soon as I could really, really get out and I felt like, it's okay. Like, I'm getting out this house. Like, I fucking been in this house for months. Like, I know I have a young son, but I need to get out the fucking house. I need to see Jimmy. I went and saw Jimmy. And yeah, it was a trip. He even looked different. Yeah. He looked different. He smelled the same. Good. He smells really good. But I'm, you never know. But I'm not gonna front on Jimmy. He do smell good. But yeah, but there were still different things about him, and I was like, wow, Jimmy's growing up. Like, he's becoming a grown-ass man. So, yeah, that experience was dope, though, because I think we all were probably questioning a lot of things. Not even just about, like, the music and when it's coming back, but just within our own band. Like, there was probably some weird... I mean, at least for me, I know I was questioning a lot, because I'm in my house all day, and that's all I can do is fucking assume. But I was hoping, like, damn, I know I just had this baby, and, like... they say it's good, but what if it's not? Just little shit that was building up my heart. And, when I went and saw Jaime and just like we were all together again, it just felt like it was yesterday. Like nothing really changed. Like at least internally, nothing really changed. Like, yeah, there's been some time. Yeah, it's been difficult. Yeah, people were working on solo shit because fuck, we had no choice and we couldn't even see each other. But ultimately, it still felt like the brotherhood that it always felt like since the jump.
Did you happen to look at the line length today yet?
So I was walking by and I think it's gonna be probably like 2 hours, probably. So Okay, so last time we all sat in a car in the borderline and recorded Jimmy crossing the first time after COVID restrictions were lifted. We actually never made it across.
Yeah, the line was ridiculously long that day, and we got out of it.
Yeah.
Jimmy actually ended up having to cross with his aunt a few days after that, so we didn't get to capture his first-time crossing experience.
But we did get to record him a few days later as he crossed for the first time in nearly 2 years to do music stuff with Tulengua again.
Yay!
Let's go. I'm ready. Let's go. Vámonos. Right now we are in. What's this area called? La Colonia Federal. Yeah, we are at La Colonia Federal. We just got some coffee. It's pretty good from Nativo Coffee Community, and we're about to cross the border.
Crossing the border.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like 2 hours, my friend.
Think so?
Sí.
2 hours? It's fine.
Hey, that's short comparatively.
Yeah, it's fine.
Last time.
Plus, we're fun people, so.
So the second crossing attempt was shorter, but the borderline was still pretty long.
I think there's still longer lines right now because of a bottleneck of all those people like Jaime who haven't been able to cross in almost 2 years.
Wow. Second take of trying to cross the border with Tulengua. Still super fucking long.
The challenges of having a binational band. Huh?
Damn. Without sentries. We are going far for this.
Back.
That's fine.
We did eventually make it through to the US. It took us about 3 hours.
Yeah, and actually Kinsey and I, who both have the Sentry Fast Pass that allows you to cut the long line, ended up ditching you and running through the border traffic so we could go pee.
Yep, that happens to the best of us. Anyway, spending all that time in that borderline with Jimmy that day reminded me of pre-pandemic times. Specifically, the huge role that actual borderline and waiting in it has played when it comes to our cross-border band.
One of my favorite things I'm remembering now about Tulengua, most of our bonding in the first, pre-pandemic was in the borderline, talking about most of the ideas about Tulengua and dreams and plans for the future were actually waiting in line at the border, because when we were getting to know each other, I mean, we bonded very quickly. Immediately as soon as we met, it was there was a familiar energy between us. But, spending hours in the borderline together for a couple of years, we would that's when you really get to know someone, because you talk about family, it's just bullshit, you just fuck around because you're bored, and dream about the future. And we would talk about Tulengua and listen to our demos and listen to our songs all the time in the car. Being this cross-border band and our music and our whole band formed because of the border and this desire to have a band that's from both sides of the border.
So we are right now at Libélula Bookstore in Barrio Logan, and this is Soft You, which is a live event with Tulengua and a lot of artists who are gonna sing and play music for us and just heal our energies.
Long light, dark night, come alive, baby, we come alive. Unwind, red wine, come alive, baby, we come alive. Maybe we've been caught in limbo. Maybe we can take it slow.
This was Tulengua's first show back together again.
We haven't played a show together in like 2 years. But Tulengua, this is Tulengua plus Jacinto, who's a new member of the live group. So this is the first time we've been on the stage together in almost 2 years. Jimmy hadn't crossed the border in a long time. So we're very happy to be here.
Hey, estuvo muy perro. I really loved it.
Thank you. It felt just really beyond words and so incredible to be back together on stage again.
Graduated, and I'm just happy that you made it. Yeah. How are you lately? Open up, come alive, I'm patient. We haven't seen, I've been waiting so long. Started off from the start. Maybe I'm just playing my part.
So this episode wraps up our season on artists and musicians at the border. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you haven't listened to the other episodes, go to portofentrypod.org and get yourself caught up.
Today's episode is also the last episode written and produced by Kinsey Marlene. She is moving on to a new job, and we are super sad, but we will miss her, and we wish her all the best of the world.
Todo lo mejor. It's also our sound designer, Emily Jankowski's last show. She, too, is moving on and leaving us all alone.
Why do
The
you
show just won't be the same without her and her magic touch.
We're gonna miss you so much, guys. Thank you for everything. And with all this change, Port of Entry will pause for a bit as we figure out our future. But we promise you we will be back. So don't worry and no nos extrañen mucho, okay?
Now, for our credits, Elisa Barba is our editor.
Lisa Morissette is operations manager.
And John Decker is the interim associate general manager of content.
Adrián Villalobos was our technical director for this episode.
This program is made possible in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people. I'm Alan Lilienthal.
And I'm Natalie Gonzalez.
Thank you.